We move on to our second speaker, and what a resume, my goodness. Coming from the world of softball, an outfielder from California, played in 4 Women's College World Series championship games for the University of Arizona, a .428 career batting average, 253 games played, 253 runs scored, a 3-time national champion with a game-winning hit against UCLA's Lisa Fernandez in the 1993 title game, 3-time first-team All-American, 3-time first-team academic All-American. For Team USA softball, you may have seen them earlier, 3, a little greedy, but okay, 3 Olympic gold medals. 1996 in Atlanta, 2000 in Sydney, 2004 in Athens. That's one of the coolest things I've seen tonight was those gold medals. A 2-time world champion in Japan in 1998 and Canada in 2002. Off the field, a National Softball Hall of Fame inductee in 2009. Over 20 years as a professional motivational speaker. She runs various softball clinics for high school and college athletes. She'll be doing that in the Pittsburgh area once she leaves here. And in her spare time, she manages to do some analysis with ESPN and Westwood One Sports. Please welcome to the Hot Stovers, Leah O'Brien Amico.
I feel like we should have taken it out for you, Kent, because you had to bend over a little bit. I'm so excited and honored to be here with the Reading Hot Stovers. I've also been here a few times, not in the MLB, but I've actually done a couple of clinics in the area in Lancaster with Big Vision, and I spoke at a banquet a few years back, and I love the turnout. Actually, when we toured with Team USA around the country, Pennsylvania was one of the biggest draws that we would get with the fans. So, for all you women, let's give a round of applause for the women who are here this time. I know this is the first time they were mentioning, maybe not the first time a woman was here, but being brought into the program like this. I just want to thank you for this opportunity, as well as to the athletes that are getting the awards. For many of you, some of you might think, okay, I'm just going to go to college and I'm going to go into that next step. For those of you that are still competing, this is just the beginning for some of you. When I was in high school and I was able to get a couple awards, I had no idea in that moment just how that was going to propel me. And so I encourage you, take that, enjoy it, understand that it is a big deal, and then keep going toward all your dreams. I'm going to share a little bit about my story, but hopefully you will see yourself as well in these lessons that we learn. I think this is what I love about baseball, softball, sports in general, are the life lessons they teach us that last our entire lifetimes. And so I'm from Southern California. Grew up a Dodger fan because, they're in California, and don't hate me. My husband is from Boston, so, he's a big Red Sox fan, so I don't know, it just seems to get us in fights everywhere we go. But, so I deal with that, a lot of Yankees people always against him, and then obviously in this area, Phillies and the Pirates. So I grew up in Southern California. My dad grew up in the Northeast originally, and then they moved out to California, and he was a big baseball fan. And so he has this daughter, and they just didn't know what to do with me. I was very rambunctious, I guess. And they're like, just sign her up for sports. And I fell in love. I'm 7 years old, fell in love with the game right off the bat. And then people were like, hey, she's a lefty. You should try to get her to pitch, right? Lefty pitchers, pretty good, right? So my dad found this lady, and this is pretty crazy because my dad is as frugal as they come. So I think back, and this is a long time ago when I played, and back in the day, nobody gave lessons. Nowadays, everybody who shouldn't be giving lessons is giving lessons, right? And so this is like back in the day. And I think back to my dad, as frugal as he is, he must have either really loved me or he really loved sports, because he would drive 45 minutes away and he would pay this gentleman who was working with these older softball players that were going to college. And so I trained and I worked and I made All-Stars, and that was so fun. And then I got to high school. When I was 14 years old, this team, they said, hey, we want your daughter to come play for this travel ball team. They said, we cannot promise that she's going to pitch, but, because the coach had a pitcher, his daughter was a pitcher, so we all understand that, right? Coach's daughter's going to pitch first. And so I go onto this team, and at the end of that year, we get to the finals, 52 teams from all around the United States of America in our age group. It was 14 and under. And then I end up getting the ball. I had earned that spot. I had earned that right. And we're in Chattanooga, Tennessee in the South, where they say y'all, and I always thought that was so funny from California. And the big Texas girls wearing these big old bows, you know, all those little softball players. And so we battled, we competed, we were on the news. I thought it was the coolest thing that they were like highlighting us. And we go on to win the national championship. And I just am like, this is so cool. And in that moment, the dream to get a college scholarship really began. You know, maybe there's more. I'm not a little boy that's a baseball player that can be like, I'm gonna be an MLB player. But at the time, college was that next level. That was like, okay, that's what you can dream to be. That's what you can do. You can go get a college scholarship, which would be a big deal in my family. Nobody in my family had gone to a four-year college before. And so I trained, I worked hard in the classroom. It's funny, I never thought I was smart, and then somehow I was 3-time academic All-American, and I'm like, is everybody else just not smart either? Like, how did I get that award? But I worked so hard. And what I found is when I worked at things even that I didn't like, and that were hard for me, then I realized, oh my goodness, like I see these results. So when I really did like it that much more, it was like, okay, nothing's gonna stop me. And so I get this chance to go play at the University of Arizona. The head coach, they had just come off winning their first ever national championship. And my head coach, he didn't even recruit me. I found out later he went to all these other people's houses trying to get them to come. He wasn't even there when I came on my recruiting trip. The assistant coach was like, I think we should get her. And he wasn't even around. So I always tell him I was his biggest surprise because eventually I ended up saying, yes, I'm going there. And he ended up helping me to become something even better than I could have fathomed. But this journey, you know, I get there, I'm thinking this is it. And let me tell you, boys and girls, I know there's some teams here. So you might have some younger athletes on the teams. It's not about having 50 schools that want you. That's great and all, but the majority, I had maybe like 4 schools that wanted me. But it was the right fit for me. It was the right place that I wanted to go and the right place that wanted me to come there, and that's when I found that I could go and I could really thrive in that environment. So it's so important to find what works for you and what works for them. And so I got this chance to play at Arizona, and you know, I'm thinking this is the best. Now, in the fall of that year, we scrimmage each other. Now, it's really, really great when you have all the home run hitters on your team. It's not great when you're a pitcher against your own hitters, okay? So it's fall, and I was a pretty good player in Southern California, but now I'm like, it was like our big leagues, right? It was like our superstars, and so I'm facing one of our hitters, and she hits a ball. I don't even know when it landed. I never saw it. So I've never seen that ball hit that far off of me, and I went to my dorm room that night, and I called my mom and was like, I don't know if I have what it takes. Because, right, I was in that moment, right? I was deflated. And boys and girls, I want to tell you, and this is for all of us, because I tell myself this still, in the moments where it gets the hardest, when the challenges are the toughest, when we're going through the greatest trials, that is not when it's time to give up. That's when it's time to get to work, right? It's through the hard times that we find, and my mom's like, get to work, go figure it out. Well, I'm so glad I didn't just quit and run when it got hard. 7 months later, we get to the Women's College World Series. I'm like, oh, this for us was our, World Series. And they are going to televise this back in the day. Now I learned how far it's come, but they're going to televise the finals. We get to the finals against UCLA. Now they are the dynasty. They've won, I don't even know at that time, 10 national championships. We won 1. And we faced Lisa Fernandez, okay? At that time, world's best player. To this day, to me, she's the world's best player. Pitcher, third baseman, best hitter in the world. Okay, she's all 3. And she's a senior. She has 93 wins in her career. She got 1 more to try to get. And she has 6 losses. Odds are pretty good, right? She's a good team. And she's pretty good. And here I am, this big no-name. Like, nobody knows me. They're not afraid of me. I'm not the big home run hitter on the team. And sometimes that's better. You want to fly under the radar. Surprise everybody, right? Shock the world. So our first hitter, she comes up, she's super fast, she hits it to the shortstop, she ends up throwing the ball away. Boys and girls, softball, baseball players, defense wins championships. I know you got to score if they can't score against you, they can't win, right? So she gets on, next girl hits her, gets her to second. I come up. Lisa, okay, I don't know, for those that don't really follow softball, she's 43 feet away. She's throwing, at the time, probably 68 miles per hour, which is probably close to high 90s for baseball, okay? The amount of time that you have to react. It's really fast. So she has me 0-2, that's not very good. And I fell off a couple pitches. One, I don't know, I remember being way up here. Somehow I stayed alive. I don't know how I fell. The doctor was like, don't swing at that next time. And then she comes with this low drop ball by my knees. And I get my barrel to the ball, and the ball flies right by her head, bounces into center field. Our coach is sending our runner. She comes around, the ball beats the runner, but the catcher bobbles it a tiny bit, just enough for us to score. She's safe, we're going crazy. It's only the first inning, and there's only one out, but we scored, okay? We would go on dodging bullets, literally. And here I was DP, so I was only the hitter of that game. So I was screaming, cheering, I was a cheerleader on the bench. And all of a sudden, we're 3 outs away, we get the 2 outs, and we get the 3rd out. Our pitcher only gave it 2 hits. We win 1-0. Somehow, from the bench to the pitcher and the catcher, because they met in the middle, I was the first one there. I was this little 18-year-old who had gotten this big hit. Somehow I beat the 3rd baseman there, the 1st baseman there, and I just thought, this is the best feeling. What you've worked for, the championship, the teams that we just recognized, you will never forget those moments, and I don't care what level it is happening at. In this room, men and women, all ages throughout your entire career, has anyone ever won a championship before? Anybody? Oh, okay. Ever? Any level? Any level? Okay, yes. Do you guys remember? Do you remember the moments and the things that brought out the feelings and the teammates, I'm sure, and the coaches you had? There's something that stays with you. And so, I think back to I could have given up when it got hard, but I stuck with it and I experienced something bigger than I ever thought. The next year I come back and it's like, I'm a sophomore. I have all kinds of experience now. And coach says, actually, you know what? I need you to move to the outfield, Leah. We have 4 pitchers this year. We only need 3. You're the one that's out. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be the best outfielder there is. And so I go out and I start, I'm telling you, if I wasn't even square one, it was square like probably -2. You guys, diving for the first couple balls, he probably had to go, what am I thinking? And yet, I worked every day. I'd say, Coach, can you stay after practice with me? Coach, will you hit me some balls? Coach, it's raining. That's probably easier to slide on wet grass than the other hard grass when I'm crashing and burning. And eventually we get to the Women's College World Series, and I'm in the outfield, and I'm catching home run balls and over the fence and bringing them back in. 2 years after Coach said, Leah, I need you to go to the outfield. I was on Team USA as an outfielder. And I look back, and I would not have made it at that time as a pitcher, and I would not have made it over our home run hitting first baseman at that time. But this door opened. And boys and girls and adults, I want to tell everybody, sometimes the obstacles that we face become the greatest opportunity, because if you were never tested, you don't really know what you're made of. If I was never put in the outfield, I wouldn't have known I could have been a world-class outfielder. But I was given the shot, and I was going to make the most of it. And that led to a career, 10 years with Team USA, and opportunities to travel this world, to travel this nation, to go into a career field essentially, to speak and to share and to teach the game of softball. Actually, the last 3 summers I've coached with Team Israel around, over in Europe for European championships, to be able to give back to this sport that gave so much to me. I just want to highlight a little experience I went through in the 2000 Olympics. So I went to Atlanta, Georgia in 1996, 2000, Sydney, Australia in 2004, Athens, Greece. In the 2000 Olympics, we had won the gold medal in 96. I was still in college. Came back 4 years later. Well, softball, at that point now, everybody wants that gold medal. So a lot of the countries really poured into their programs. We had a coach who didn't really change anything. And if we're not changing, we're not growing. Okay? If we're not changing, we're not growing. It might have helped you win then, but it's not necessarily going to help you win going forward. And so we weren't hitting that well. We had a 110-game win streak heading into the Olympic Games. The Today Show was interviewing us. We're like the big story. We won the first 2 games, and then we lost 3 in a row. 2 of them on errors, and one of them was 11 innings, one was 14 innings. And then against Australia, our third game in a row that we lost, we got to the 13th inning, we finally scored in the top of the inning, and then they hit with 2 strikes, 2 outs, they hit a 2-run home run to beat us 2-1, and we're like, is this reality? Well, Tommy Lasorda, who's heard of Tommy Lasorda? Anybody? Tom Lasorda, right? I remembered him from the Dodgers. He's told me I was his favorite softball player because my last name was Amico because it's Italian. And so Tommy was like not having it. First of all, the baseball guys, a lot of them at that time were in AAA, but then a lot of them went and had careers in the big leagues. And they were like, stay away from us. You guys are bad, like, right? And superstitions, right? Baseball, softball, like, do not go around those things that are gonna bring you bad luck. And so they were like, stay away from us. And then Tommy Lasorda, I mean, he had a serious meeting with us. He was like, y'all better get your head out. You need to get ready and you need to find a way to turn this around. And here's what happened. Early on, everybody gets along when things are going well. But when you go through challenges, and I'm sure you guys saw, like, everybody gets tested, y'all. We deal with adversity different ways. And number one, individually we do, right? But then as teams, we do as well. And so the first game, everybody kind of got like, what just happened? The second game, very quickly, pointing fingers, making excuses, it's her fault, she made the error, and just division. And after that third game, this really was a make it or break it. If we did not win those last two games, we lost again, we weren't even going to get to compete for any medal, let alone try to work our way back to the top. And we had a sports psychologist that helped us to, told our leaders on the team, get together right now. You have got to have communication. Communication is number one, right? We all communicate differently. We got in a room, we went around this room, and we first said, every single person right now is going to say what they bring to the table. What are you going to do? Because there is no more passing the buck. For us to win, every one of us has to believe. We're not waiting for the person behind us. It's great they have our back, but right now I have my own back. Right? Accountability, number one. We have to step up. And then number two, we went around the room, and maybe this is more for girls, but I bet guys would like this too. So we went around the room and they said, I want you to say something and point something out of a teammate.
I'm not following this.
He's the finale. He's the finale. No, so I'm almost done. Okay, so we go, and they said we need to share about a teammate. And so one of my teammates, I played with her for years, and she said, you know what? She's a pitcher, and she said, I just know when I throw that ball, it's not dropping in the outfield. It is going to get caught. It was the most simple thing you could ever say, right? Of course, we're gonna try to catch the ball. I was like, let's go. We're beating everybody. Like, it was this encouragement from a teammate. We don't always voice. Most of the time we voice what we don't like. We don't always voice what we do like. I encourage you, right? You go home, tell the people around you, tell the people at work, tell your friends, athletes, tell your teammates what they bring to the table, because I promise you the unity that happens in that moment. We went out, and you know what happened? We started celebrating the little things. The plays that you're Olympians, you should be able to do that every single time. Because you know what? In the biggest moments, the little things are the big things. We worked our way back one by one by one. We get to the championship game. We're down by one with Japan. And we find a way to score it up, and there's a rain delay, and then now all of a sudden, and this is it. I mean, Japan was undefeated, by the way. Undefeated. And so we get into the 8th inning, runner on second. Our girl hits it to left field. This little left fielder, she had been catching everything all day. She goes back for a ball. She turns a little bit too quick. The ball drops off her glove. Our runner comes around. We are going crazy. We end up winning the gold medal on a mistake that the other team made. But we still won. That's all that mattered in that moment. But I'm going to tell you right now, we really won in that locker room. We won first in that locker room when everything was coming crashing down, and it was that piece of unity that all of a sudden there was this twist, and it impacted our hearts and our minds. And it brought us together in the moments that we went into the biggest battles. So every one of you, I just want to encourage you. One of my biggest things that I love to share, because we won gold medals and I talk about the gold standard, I firmly believe, and honestly, the little bit of time that I've even had with Billy Wagner today and the Hot Stovers and the people leading this whole event, everything comes down to how you do what you do. That's the gold standard. Outcomes are never guaranteed. But when you do things the right way, when you have a good attitude, when you give 100% effort every single time, when you treat people around you with respect and kindness and encouragement and support, there is no stopping you. So I just encourage you, every one of you, go out and live the gold standard, be the difference makers, be the game changers in your community. I know that this is a game changer, and you high school students that are getting the awards, your teams that are doing this, have the best season yet because you guys stay united and be the difference makers to show the teams you play against how it's done. All right, thank you guys so much.